Hello and welcome to this edition of Yakima Agenda, the TV show. Welcome to YPAC Studios. Here in the studio today, we have the Deputy Mayor for the City of Yakima, Matt Brown, and also the Mayor, Patricia Byers. I made that clarification at the very beginning. This is Yakima Agenda TV show because we recently started a Yakima Agenda podcast, right. And we may need to work on the titles for these two programs to avoid any confusion, which has already presented itself. But we're glad that you guys are here. We have an opportunity every quarter to talk to you about some of what's been going on with the City of Yakima and maybe some of what's to come. Today we want to focus on a few things that really came out of a recent presentation by City Manager Vicki Baker. She kind of gave a year in review update at a city council meeting, and one of the things she talked about is a new program, which is kind of a redo of an old program, Adopt a Block. Can you tell us, Matt, a little bit about where the city is at with this new old program?
Yeah, so Adopt a Block, if you're not familiar with what it is, it's basically, we're trying to organize nonprofits or churches or groups to kind of adopt a block in our community and help love it back to life. Go in and talk to the neighbors and say, hey, how can we help? How can we help clean up? And then just kind of own that block week after week, month after month type of thing. And the city really becomes a kind of a logistics oversight, but not necessarily doing all of that work. Yeah. But it's definitely, there's a portal that's been launched online with it. We've had a partnership with Habitat for Humanity to kind of help with the logistics of cleanup and tools and all of that fun stuff that you might need. We did kind of a pilot run with it earlier in the year, unofficially, so to speak, and it was great. You know, it's a kind of allowed one of the neighbors that has, I think we're calling them captains, has kind of owned this block, and he had everyone in the neighborhood ready to rock and roll. So it was we were out there, we were raking leaves and picking up garbage, and really, I was out there mowing grass even, and really got to have a good time working on that. And it was unofficial, but it's one of those things that we're testing it and trying to get it fully into development. But it's happening, and that's kind of the cool part right now is we're trying to find those local partners that want to help do this. And what, really the heart behind it is that there's a lot of groups doing a lot of things all the time. And what's happening is our community doesn't really know what those things are, or if they're happening, or there's no kind of organization. So what ends up happening is you have like 6 groups clean up the same 7 blocks of the town, right? And when the rest of the town's like, hey, we could also partner and do these type of things around the rest of the community. So it's kind of a cool deal to help us kind of see what's going on.
And I refer to it as a new old program. It's kind of, maybe more accurately, it's kind of a throwback to community-based volunteerism, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, and there's other cities across the country that have started Adopt-A-Blocks. We're by far not the first one that has come up with this. I think actually our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., has a pretty successful Adopt-A-Block program. And so it's not necessarily a new, but it is kind of a newer idea to Yakima to help organize what's going on. That's already really happening in our community, but a little bit more laser targeted.
What's the process for a neighborhood to go? So there's somebody lives in a neighborhood and says, hey, maybe our neighborhood would be a good candidate for Adopt a Block. How do they go through the process?
I believe it's just on our website, and I believe they have to apply or fill out an application and different stuff, or if you want to be a captain of your neighborhood and own that, and then an organization can come in and say, hey, I'm going to take care of this block and do this, and then they'll work with the captain to figure out what days they're coming and organizing the volunteers. And then Habitat comes in and also brings in the trucks and all the fun stuff to make sure that the garbage is picked up and whatever is taking place.
And so the Adopt a Block program is still, I don't know, best described as still in the development stage, still getting there, not quite ready to do active cleanups on a regular basis, but close to that.
Yeah, it's in development, but it's one of those things where you have to start getting those partnerships and putting all that stuff into place, and then hopefully by through the winter and springtime, that program will be fully rocking and rolling, and people will be able to start adopting blocks, organizations all over, or churches, or anyone.
Yeah. Well, great. We'll look forward to the rollout, the official rollout, and of course we'll talk about it in the future, just kind of check in and see how Adopt a Block is going. But we do encourage people, if they are interested, visit that site on the City of Yakima website, just Adopt a Block, and you can find out more. One of the other things that was included in the presentation that the city manager made to the council about the last year was focused on infrastructure projects, transportation-related projects, and specific road projects. And recently, one major road project was completed, two roundabouts at 34th and Fruitvale, kind of River Road, Fruitvale Powerhouse in that area. And some people have said, okay, wait, earlier this year, the city has said we are struggling financially. And some people question, well, why are you building road projects if you are struggling financially?
Well, we are out of necessity for safety and other reasons, but the big question is the funding.
Yeah.
So when we have a major transportation project like that, we have the Transportation Benefit District, which is our car tabs, and that money is used, a portion of that money, which is a small amount of the project, like maybe 10%, is used toward grants that are given through both the state and the federal government. And so the majority of the money comes from the federal government and the state government, and it's siphoned down into the county through Yakima Valley Conference of Governance. And they have a transportation and drive board for Upper and Lower Valley, who are the ones that do all the processing, and the cities do the grant writings and fill things in, and then those projects are identified through certain qualifiers through a trans drive in the state in terms of priority and in terms of readiness for project. So when all those things are considered, when their funding is there and they're shovel ready, so to speak, their funding in terms of like maybe the 10% grant of the grants, that kind of thing, then the rest of it comes in through the federal and state to take care of the projects. Different pool of money altogether. It really is not the local taxpayers paying for those large projects that are in essence, in my thinking, necessary things we do in our city for safety. So that's the difference. It isn't a local fund of money other than the match for the grant, which is usually about 10%.
Well, I think that's a pretty important point to make, because the money that is used for transportation projects could not be used for something else like police or fire or parks.
No, it's earmarked specifically by the federal and state for transportation projects and road projects.
And it's kind of a return on investment. I was going to say ROI. That's the acronym for return on investment. It's a good example of how local dollars make up a small portion, but most of it is paid for from state funds and federal funds. And frankly, those kinds of projects we could not complete were it not for those.
We would never have the funding for that. And the other thing is that in the Transportation Benefit District, that is the car tabs.
Yeah.
It is not part of the general fund. And so, that's money specifically set aside for those projects.
And I would also like to add too is that there's always been federal and state dollars that these things have, with transportation needs for as long as we've been a country, right? There's always been this access to these funds. The difference, though, that we're really seeing right now is we have a go-getter staff member named Bill Preston who is killing it on pulling in a ton of funding sources. Right. I mean, he had a slide, I think, at one point, and it looked like there was like close to 80 different sources of funding that he was pulling from, different grants and different stuff like that. That is like, you don't see that in other cities. You're not seeing that in other places because Bill is really working very diligently to find every nook and cranny of where he can find this money from.
He's very skilled at that. And I will say a lot of times entities or cities, municipalities, they hire grant writers and that's all they do.
Yep.
And Bill does all of this grant writing, for all of those projects, as well as being the community development director and presently city engineer. So he wears lots of hats, and he just stays incredibly busy. We're grateful for the work he does, very grateful.
For sure, and having someone who is committed to that effort,
Yes.
And does it as diligently as he does. Interestingly enough, he is going to be the next Yakima Agenda podcast.
Well, good. I'll look forward to
Yes.
that.
Nice.
So we'll learn a little bit more about how that process works.
I did want to add, though, that he does for his department, but the police department does their own grant writing, fire department does their grant writing. We have, people in Yakima very committed, not only to the work that they do, but to help generating funds for the things that they do. By writing grants, we don't have a paid grant writer. It's part of their job. It's amazing.
For sure. Again, going back to the presentation that was made to the council about the last year by the city manager, one of the things that has come about rather recently is what's being referred to as a transparency portal. This is something that's available on the city's website. Matt, can you explain a little bit about the genesis of the portal and what its intent is?
Yeah, so Councilman Berg and I, we met for coffee one day, and we said, hey, there's the amount of public records and the amount of things that people seek and that seem to be the same things over and over and over again, and then it bogs down staff time, right? Because every time you do a records request, there's a whole process to get those things done, and if they're the same record over and over and over again, it just kind of is a never-ending sloth, right? And for us, it was really going, well, how can we truly make this transparent for the people at home, right? And so we brought up the idea, and then City IT blew us away, and literally 3.5 days later, we said, hey, what would this look like if and kudos to Councilman Berg, because this was really his, driving point here. But we did not anticipate what they came up with in 3.5 days, and it's just going to keep getting better. But contracts or resolutions or ordinances or all sorts of stuff now. There's like crime statistics that are on there. Like you can find all of that information now at like literally just clicking a couple buttons on the website, and you're there. And that did not exist. Prior to like about a month ago.
Yeah.
And I think that just shows a little bit of how dynamic our staff is at the city. I mean, that IT department, they were like, we already have all of this.
Yeah.
This is already there. We just got to put it somewhere. And so it wasn't like we were asking something out of the blue here. It was really, and it's really well done. If you haven't gone and look at it, I would recommend you go check it out. There's a lot of info from even like salaries and different stuff like that folks are always asking the questions of, then here you go. Now you can find it at 11 o'clock at night and not have to put in a public records request. So,
well, it's taking an awful lot of, as you mentioned, a lot of existing data that you would have to kind of search around and look many different places. And now here it is in one place.
Right.
Yeah, the one I really like too is the reporting on our finances. The finance team actually has a couple really cool portals in there, and I know that's been a very hot button topic in our community. Well, it's now right there. You can sit in there and play with this tool and figure out exactly what every little nook and cranny of the city is doing, from the general fund to the overall bigger city overall fund, and really get to see everything like in real time. Stuff just moves and tweaks, and you're like, oh, wow, this is cool, right? Stuff that has been available, but if you didn't know where to find it, right, and it wasn't right there, now it's right there. And I think that's the really cool part behind this.
Well, again, kudos to the staff there at IT for not just doing it quickly, but doing it really well.
Yeah, they killed it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of something that's going really well, we return to, for our last subject of this interview, the airport and the modernization. We've been talking about the airport modernization for a while. We were talking about it largely just in anticipation. Now there's been real work done out there. There's real work going on. There's more to come. What's the status right now out at the airport? All of what's happening out there. Where are we at in that process?
Well, Randy, I'm glad you asked. That's one of my favorite topics. And this actually started clear back when Bob Harrison was city manager, and we heard going on through the state that Seattle was going to make capacity in 2030, and they were looking for resolution. They had a 3-year committee put together who tried to find something else, and all the answers were no. We went to, Mr. Harrison and I went to that last meeting, and everybody else was saying no. Everybody's saying no, no, no. And Yakima raised her hand and said, yes, we want to be part of the solution. And that started things moving in a really positive direction. At that time, or shortly after that, Rob Peterson, who was then the airport director, took a job out of state, and we had a position open, and we hired the current airport director, Rob Hodgman. And Rob came with Rob too, came with a huge experience, background knowledge, and he had a real drive and a vision to do something that hadn't been done here in a long time. The structure of our airport and our terminal had not been changed in probably 20 years or longer.
At least, yeah.
So,
Maybe 50 years.
Yeah,
I know, maybe longer. And so when he came, started bringing that vision to fruition, and it's 3 different phases for the redevelopment of the terminal itself, and there's some things in the airport as well, because as you know, the east, what is the one way? The crosswind, yes, the crosswind runway is going to be replaced. They did all that tarmac work on the Charlie area, so a lot of that's been done. Now it's mostly the structure of the terminal, and if you've driven by, you've noticed that there's this wood kind of structure going up because the first phase had a great deal to do with the infrastructure of the building. So the HVAC system, some of the electrical systems, and then redoing the roof, so upgrading all of that to current standards. Now we're into the next part of that, which we're going to start very quickly, is people will be excited about this, a luggage carousel. So you don't have that 2-foot slide with 50 people in the room. The area is going to be enlarged. There's going to be a regular luggage carousel in there. They're going to redo the restrooms, and including a family restroom on the ground floor, and have a family area. So it's going to be much more accommodating, more room, more pleasant, and then it goes on from there. There's other changes that are coming. Those are the most recent ones coming up. So excited about that. And people keep asking me, so I will tell you that yes, eventually it will mean, if things carry forward, reopening the restaurant at the airport. A lot of us have great memories about that. That will probably be one of the last things. But so that's kind of where it's at now. We'll be starting that. The other thing is we've expanded parking, and thanks to Representative Chris Corey, we had a $750,000 state grant to increase the size of the parking lot. In addition to that, over the front parking lot, there's going to be a solar panel covering, so it will help generate some energy and give more covered parking right up in the front as well. So that'll be coming up fairly quickly. I think the expanded airport or parking area is going in very soon. So that's kind of where it's at.
That raises another question of how can the city, when it says
the money
we're short of money, how can we be making all of these improvements at the airport?
Again, different buckets of money. Primarily, it is federal money through the Federal Aviation Administration, grants through there. There's also another federal level that works with terminal construction and repair, and we're getting a lot of funding from there. And Representative Newhouse in the state capitol has been able to get earmarks for us, about $5 million a couple different years, plus grants coming in from the other federal source that have to do with aviation. So again, not our local taxpayer money. This is all money coming in from a federal level or from a state level.
And what a lot of people don't realize too is that our airport really is almost a federal asset in a lot of ways. So that's why a lot of the money, a lot of the airport is funded. Almost all of the airport is funded out of federal money, just the operations and even all of those things, because it is a airport. It is a federal thing.
Yeah, it is a federal facility in many ways. They even tell you how big your building can be, what the boundaries and everything are, according to where the planes are. I mean, they have some very strict requirements. So I have to take my hat off to Rob Hodgman. He's done an amazing job of having a vision for this, developing a plan for this, moving things forward, and I'm very grateful for that. It's going to be, when we get to the final end part, it's going to be just fun to have the airport functioning at the terminal itself functioning at such a high level again. And part of our plan is to be part of the solution to Seattle. So when they are at capacity and they need to start putting things off, we will be available, both with our our airport facility, the runways and everything else, and our terminal, an up-to-date, up-to-grade terminal. So It'll be
Be
amazing.
ready to go.
Yes.
Well, lots of exciting things happening.
Yeah.
Lots of exciting things to come. Thank you, as always, for taking time out of your busy schedules
Right.
to join us on Yakima Agenda. We'll look forward to the next time. We look forward to you as well joining us for the next edition of Yakima Agenda, the TV show. Until then, I'm Randy Beeler. Take care.